TV umpire to director, we have a review. Can you rock and roll it for me, please?
Welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll It. The T20 World Cup hasn't even begun, but already I think KK, Sid Monga, and I are emotionally exhausted because there's been massive news in the past 2, 3 weeks. Bangladesh, firstly, now not part of the World Cup anymore. And of course, the recent big news that Pakistan will not be playing India in the group game on February 15th. Not a lot of information still about what the implications of that are in terms of what happens if India and Pakistan both reach the semi-finals or the final. Will they then play? What will the ICC do in terms of sanctions or repercussions for Pakistan? We're still waiting on all that information. Um, Obviously, the implications for the group stage itself is that Pakistan are basically in a must-win situation now. They need to beat USA, Namibia, and Netherlands in all likelihood. Even a potential washout in any of those games could massively jeopardize their chances of reaching the Super 8s now. It depends. I mean, on other results, then that team would have to beat the two other associate teams. There's still a fair chance that Pakistan make the Super 8s, and of course, in the Super 8s, their points are not affected by what happens in the group before. Plus, the Super 8 groups are already pre-decided. So, in that sense, there may not be actual implications for Pakistan should they make the Super 8s. They'll still be in the same group and they'll start on 0 points with everyone else. But everybody knows that this is a huge deal for the game commercially. There's a lot of money at stake. This is the most watched cricketing match of every World Cup and one of the most watched sporting events in the world.
Of course, it's unfortunate the where we have arrived, but uh, and without getting into what has brought us here, who has done what could have been done, what could have been done to avoid any of these. I just feel that as an offshoot of all these events, it's not the worst possible outcome that there is no India-Pakistan match because of all the ugliness that it generates. And it has always the India-Pakistan matches have been nauseating for me for the last 7, 8 years at least in all these World Cups. Anyway, artificially contrived to take place because magically in every tournament, India and Pakistan end up in the same first group, and there isn't anything riding on those games. Neither do you carry forward those points, nor does since 2007, nor does the qualification ride on those games. It's just it's just a sideshow for hatred from both sides and for the ICC to cash in on the hatred and ugliness. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's whatever has happened with all these Asian countries, the politics coming into cricket. Whatever has happened is not ideal, but just the possibility of India versus Pakistan not happening is not the worst outcome in my opinion.
I'll just say that I'll add to Munga's point that the ugliness which has been there for the last several years, yeah, it was especially bad during that Asia Cup where players weren't shaking hands and the whole trophy situation. And so, yeah, I will also be glad to not have to watch that. But it's, I mean, it's very sad that it has come to this. It is very sad for Bangladesh starting there. Uh, what did their players do to suddenly not be playing in a World Cup? And for a lot of them, it's like it could have been their last World Cup, possibly their last chance to shine at a big event. They're not going to play the tournament for events that are way beyond their control. And I mean, it all goes back for me to like, we still don't have a reason, like an official reason why the BCCI asked Kolkata Knight Riders to remove Mustafizur Rahman from their squad. So it all goes back there, and we don't even have a reason for it. And then it's snowballed to this. I think everywhere, like, I mean, in all three countries, the cricket boards, there's heavy sort of political uh, involvement. And, you can't even say, oh, this is legitimate, that is not legitimate, whatever. It's come to a point where, like, yeah, the commercial implications for the game are huge, of course, that India-Pakistan match won't happen. But also, like, just for the way the game despite everything for so many decades, it still, was a kind of thing that in some ways brought South Asia together, right? In some ways, it was an outlet for good things about like rivalries, and where it feels like a really distant time now. But like, me and my friends loved a lot of Pakistani players growing up, and I'm sure, I mean, right now the atmosphere is too poisonous both here and I'm guessing in India, in Pakistan, for the same kind of thing to happen. So it's just really sad all round. And I mean, I really like, after all this, the fact that there's a World Cup to look forward to just has taken such a big backseat. And it feels weird to be talking about, oh, this team has like issues with their number seven or whatever, right? It just feels really sad and really weird.
I just wanted to add that how it's so poignant right now that in 1996, when Australia and West Indies refused to travel to Sri Lanka despite being assured of security, India and Pakistan sent a joint team as a solidarity, Asian solidarity, to show to the world that hey, it's safe to play. The only equivalent, sort of slightly, the only equivalent to that can be now Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Oh, sorry, Pakistan playing Bangladesh at Pisar Oval on February 15th at Tamil Union. I'm not sure it's an equivalent, but it's an alternative for the two teams who won't have anything to do on February 15th.
Okay, as exhausted as we are by the news cycle, we're going to try and get excited about this World Cup and discuss the contenders, discuss, India's position as favorites in the tournament, but also all the other teams. We're going to get into conditions and how that might affect the World Cup. I'll start with telling you. So we have been doing these tier lists in office, uh, basically saying who the favorites are, then who the strong contenders are, dark horses, long shots. I'll tell you mine and you guys can start with that whether you agree or not. India had as favorites, of course. Then strong contenders, I had Australia and New Zealand. And dark horses, South Africa and England. And then everybody else in long shots. Sid Monga still taking time to process that. So, KK, you can tell me whether you agree or not. With specifically, especially me having Australia and New Zealand as the strongest contenders to India, with South Africa and England just behind them.
Hmm. I mean, I think that group with South Africa and New Zealand and Afghanistan is, I mean, clearly the one where, you know, with the most potential for, uh, I mean, you won't even call it like, because Afghanistan won the semifinals last time. So um, it won't be an upset or anything. It's just three very strong teams vying for two spots, which you don't have in the other groups, especially with Bangladesh now out. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I mean, between South Africa and New Zealand, there are, I don't know, I find it really hard to, on the one hand, it's felt over the last year that South Africa have just not even been able to like articulate what their best 11 is in T20 eyes. On the other hand, you can say it's a new tournament and it's T20, and like form is very often irrelevant when a team gets on a run or something like that. So yeah, I mean, between South Africa and New Zealand, I don't know if I'd count New Zealand to be among the favorites like you are, I think, if I got you right. Uh, uh, yeah, simply for, I don't know. On the other hand, I mean, I think England, they have a fairly straightforward ride into the Super Eights, which could be famous last words, especially because they're playing their group stage initial matches in India, which will suit their players more than playing in Sri Lanka, I think. Um, yeah, thereafter, and after that, they get into the group where, you know, which could on paper be the slightly less competitive of the two Super 8 groups. So I see England as like, I kind of see them getting to the semi-finals.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then what happens, I don't know, of course. But I see England among, the favorites to make the semi-finals. India, of course. And Australia, I think I discount this 3-0 thing because they didn't really have their strongest 11, or, they were trying out a few things, trying out a few players. Uh, I see them also in the semifinals.
Yeah. They were trying out a few gestures also, just like new ways of walking out of the field after you've been given out. Um, but yeah, the reason I had New Zealand above South Africa is because South Africa in the Super 8s are with India and Australia. And so
Mm,
I just felt, I'm picking India and Australia. Of course, South Africa have a good chance too, but I thought India and Australia might qualify from there, whereas New Zealand and England are
mm.
in that weaker of the two Super 8 groups, which is why I thought New Zealand have a good chance. But yeah, Sid, what are some of your initial thoughts on the favorites in this tournament?
Yeah, there's not much to disagree on. It's pretty straightforward for India and Australia to get into that group of death, so to speak. India, Australia, South Africa, West Indies. So even if we just go by form and say West Indies are not going to threaten these teams, so between Australia and South Africa, I would think Australia are slightly more favorites to go from this group, and England and New Zealand from the other one. India are by miles the favorites. I've never seen any team go into a World Cup as with such strong probability to win. And speaking of T20 World Cups only, but then again, it's T20 and you can be only so sure about a team because this format is very tricky. For the first round does not matter to India at all. It's all exhibition games almost for India. Even if they lose to Pakistan, if that match happens, it does not change anything, which I'm not a fan of. You have got your next group decided already, your fixtures decided. Now, in, basically for India, it just comes down to, uh, winning two out of those three games against Australia, West Indies, and South Africa. Sometimes it two might not be enough because if, let's say, all three of India, Australia, and South Africa beat West Indies, two might not be enough. Then net run rate might come in. But uh, other than, but in like on form and on expectations and team strengths, I would say, yeah, India, Australia, England, New Zealand likeliest to go through to the semifinals. Uh, and then anything can happen.
Yeah,
I'll just add one thing, which is that I think Group 2, simply by virtue of being played in Sri Lanka mostly, or I think all the Group 2 matches are in Sri Lanka, right? Anyway, at least a large part. So, by virtue of that, and the amount of spin that comes into it, I kind of see like Pakistan they've picked pretty wisely for the conditions that they're playing in, I think. And their spinners are coming into some kind of form coming into the tournament. And yeah, I
Yeah,
could
if
see.
these are low scoring games, you don't count
That's
out
right.
Yeah.
That's right. And both Pakistan and Sri Lanka, their weakness lies with the bat and like power, right? The power game that the best teams on flat pitches would probably overpower them in more 7 times out of 10, let's say. But in low scoring games, they may just be better designed to win them, at least in a short tournament like this. And so, yeah, I won't discount either Pakistan, especially Pakistan and Sri Lanka also from that side of the draw.
yeah,
Yeah, so
Pakistan.
we have got jeopardy in the first X group because it's three strong teams, and in the Y group because the conditions are such variables there. In England and New Zealand tradition, although New Zealand do have Shatner, Bresswell, Sodhi, they are not traditionally that good if it comes down to, especially with the bat, when there is no pace in the pitches. So anything can happen in that group as well.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the numbers of venues, and Sri Lanka has been among the lowest scoring countries over the last World Cup cycle. I think the run rate there is just above 8. In India, it's above 9.5. So there's a big difference in conditions. Of course, now it's an ICC tournament. ICC will be preparing the pitches, so you don't know exactly what you're going to get. But traditionally, Sri Lanka, you expect a little more turn, some slowness. Another reason I had gone for New Zealand because they've just played in India and they have, as Monga pointed out, those spinners, and also they've got, as we talked about in our ODI review, the sweep shots and other ways of countering spin. England, of course, also have some of that, but have not maybe played in these conditions as recently as New Zealand. Although, of course, New Zealand have played in India, and I'm just talking about how Colombo will be very different, Colombo and Palakele. All the games in Group 2 are indeed in Sri Lanka, in either Colombo or Palakele. So yeah, that's going to affect things. We'll come to sort of all of that and look at a little bit of the specifics of each of the teams. Let's start with India. The reason we're saying they're clear favorites is because in this last cycle, since the last World Cup, they have a win-loss record of 5 plus, which is almost unheard of in T20 internationals. The next best is Australia, which is just under 2.5. So Australia winning less than 3 and 4 games, whereas India is winning 5 out of 6 games basically. It's an incredible record. If you look at every phase, I mean, we were trying to figure out best power play batters. For example, you have Abhishek Sharma there. You have best finishers. You have Hardik Pandya, arguably Rinku Singh. Similarly for bowlers, almost across phases, India seem to have one or the other powerhouse. And so, yeah, I mean, I think Sid already kind of answered this, but this is clearly the biggest favorite we've had, KK, right? In a like going into a T20 World Cup. I can't remember. Maybe England after their 2019 World Cup win, but they were not as strong as this. Even that great England white ball side, even the great West Indies T20 sides, you wouldn't say were like nailed on favorites to win in 2016. So this is like a first. How does that actually? I mean, I know we can't get into the ambiguous stuff of how the pressure affects India and stuff, but if you can just talk a little bit about why India are such big favorites and how that makes it a very different World Cup in some senses.
Hmm. Yeah, I was just like, I mean, yesterday I had written a piece on this, and one of the things about India is you look around the other teams, and maybe I don't know, there's one or two players in each of those teams whom you could say maximum who would be like, okay, they'd walk into any team in the world, right? And you look at India, and Abhishek Sharma walks into any team in the world. Jasprit Bumrah, like, come on. Varun Chakravarti, Hardik Pandya, these four are like nailed on to, get into any team in the world. And if you're playing in Asian conditions, you might throw Akshar Patel in there as well. I mean, I don't know which other finger spin bowling all round. I mean, there are a few going around, so it's a little more arguable, but he's probably in that
Yeah.
conversation too.
Arshdeep Singh is
And
arguably the best power play bowler in the world along with Hazelwood. So that's another name who,
I mean, yeah,
yeah,
I wouldn't put him quite in the class
yeah,
of Hazelwood. So, he's not going to walk into any team in the world. But
yeah.
right, and like it's before like this year of 2025 and like the terrible form he was in, like Surya Kumar Yadav, he would have been one of the first names in that list, right? And that covers every part of a team, like from opening to middle order, spin all rounder, fast bowling all rounder, wrist spinner, fast bowler. So I mean, there's a clear reason why India are so good, and uh, there's also a kind of which maybe we haven't touched upon before is that I think because India are producing a lot of young players now who are really like strong T20 players first before anything else, uh, and it might potentially in a small way be contributing to some of the uh, less than ideal results they've had in other formats recently. That's going away from this conversation, but just as far as T20 game, just that record they've built is because they just have all bases covered. And the kind of problems we speak about when we talk about India uh, are like, oh, who's the sixth bowler going to be if Hardik Pandya is injured? So it's like a kind of if there is an injury, what happens? Whereas for other teams, with their first 11, you have like, holes to pick, weaknesses to target, and all that. With India, there are maybe a few. You might say especially Vishan Kishan is playing ahead of Samson now, and then they play on a turning track, and there's an off spinner who's a really good off spinner in the other team that I don't know could be a bit of an issue. Of course, like Dew comes in and like really makes conditions vastly different across two innings, and India get on the wrong side of it. You can beat them that way. They can be beaten, of course, but like you have to look for these uh, on the day something happens out of their control for, you know, major jeopardy to happen. Of course, like on even when things are going well, somebody can have a really great spell or whatever, and it's T20, but it feels like uh, some individual or some team has to have an incredible day for India to lose a game, or something has to go very wrong with injuries or conditions or toss or whatever to even things up. Otherwise, 9 times out of 10, you're like, yeah, India is going to win this game. And that's just remarkable for this format.
Yeah, so this is, I think KK has also said in the piece, this is kind of like the Australia team of 2007,
Hmm.
where they're just dominant in in a format over a period of time. I mean, it's very rare that you have a team that's just won the previous World Cup, but then you look at the squad this time around and it actually looks stronger than the last World Cup. They're playing, even more modern brand of cricket. They had already started this kind of T20 revolution even before the 24 World Cup, but it's been so consistent now for a period of time. You've seen even in big matches, the Asia Cup, they haven't gone away from this template, which at times used to be the criticism that India play like this in bilaterals, but then in the big tournaments, they kind of freeze up. But now we've seen for a sustained period of time that India actually trust this attacking method, even when it comes to bigger tournaments. So there's even that kind of fear, slightly assuaged. So India very much clear favorites. Let's talk about a team Sid loves, which is Australia, because before every World Cup, I know he likes to read into the body language of the Australians. Before the 2019 World Cup, I know he was like talking about how the Australians were dancing in their training sessions. And he felt that was a good sign for them. This time they've had a very weird build up to the World Cup because they were actually in very good form in T20 internationals last year. They were looking like they could challenge India, and they played good cricket against India in the series in Australia. Now they've gone to Pakistan. Mitchell Marsh forgot to even carry his sweater there because didn't even think about how it might be cold in Pakistan. And Australia seem to have forgotten like their whole Australian mindset. They've just gone there and played some weird cricket over that series. What do you expect from them? And remember, with Australia, they're missing Pat Cummins. He's out for the whole tournament. Hazelwood is going to probably miss the first group stage, which shouldn't matter too much considering their group is not too hard. But still, when he comes in the Super 8s, you're going to be getting a bowler who's been injured for a period of time. So all of that still not too much of a worry for them, or what do you make of Australia going into this tournament?
No, I won't read too much into what happened in Pakistan. Even though Australians, they kind of realize it's T20, it's completely very heavily conditions reliant, and conditions in Pakistan and India couldn't be more different because India, Indian conditions are just meant for 200 scores and plus. So, and they will be playing mostly in India. So it should not, these matches in Pakistan should not have that much of a bearing on how they perform in the World Cup. Uh, yes, missing Cummins and especially Hazelwood, if he does come in, he will be, as you said, he will not have that, he'll be just coming off an injury. So all those things matter. But again, it's, as for India, it's for them also, it's about winning 4 out of 5 matches. It's about beating West Indies and then beating one out of India and South Africa. India, again, as we have already said, it's how difficult it is. Uh, so it's about having four those. It's a weird tournament. The first round does not matter at all, except for one group, which has the Afghanistan and New Zealand. Uh, it just then suddenly it spurts to life where all these three matches have got huge relevance to how you end up, and then semis and finals. So uh, I won't put it past Australia to make it to the semifinals because the first round should not be an issue. Although they have to just end up in the top two in a group of Australia, Sri Lanka, Zimbabwe, Oman, and Ireland. So it should not be an issue for them. Then they come into the Super 8s and they have to win two matches out of three. And I do back them to make it because they do have the strength, the power hitting. I'm not sure Adam Zampa
He's got
was.
he's
Yeah,
in a
he
bit
had a
of doubt
groin.
as well, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a big miss because when you were talking about
Hmm.
Indian players who walk into any side, I was about to say Kuldeep Yadav also, but then I realized, hey,
Hmm.
Zampa is slightly better than Kuldeep Yadav.
Hmm.
But so if Zampa is not there, it's a big miss. So they have, but once it's not like you don't have to sustain it for too long, like in an ODI World Cup or a Test match series. It's about those 2 weeks, 5 matches in 2 weeks. You have to win four of them. Uh, Things can come together for them suddenly. So I would like yes, it's not ideal. The preparation is not ideal. The injuries are not ideal, but I would never rule them out of semi-final contention. And semi-final will be England, New Zealand, Sri Lanka, or Pakistan. Now,
Yeah.
if it's Sri Lanka or Pakistan, then they have to play in Sri Lanka, which is a bit of a problem for them because especially against a side which has already been there throughout the tournament. So, but otherwise, if it is England or New Zealand, you know they are more than even chance to make it to the final.
And meet India possibly in Ahmedabad. So and by the way, Australia do play all their first group games in Sri Lanka because they're in Sri Lanka's group.
Hmm.
So
So they
they'll
do
have
also get familiarity with the
yeah,
Hmm.
conditions.
yeah. And we all know that, Travis Head's gonna score ducks throughout the tournament, and then in the Super 8 game against India, he's gonna get 100 of 30 balls. So that's another strong reason why they might get to the Super 8s at least. But yeah, they were very much, at least up until last year, the other form team apart from India. Tim David has proved himself to be one of the top middle order players in the world. He's a guy who would walk into most teams. That opening partnership of Marsh and Head is, of course, very strong. And then in the bowling, even without Cummins, there's Nathan Ellis, who's emerged as one of the top T20 bowlers in the world. If him and Hazelwood are both, fit and ready to go for the Super 8s, that's still at least two very good seamers you have. Bartlett has, shown capability as well in this format. So they are one of the stronger sides, certainly. There's players like Maxwell who, again, somehow just at World Cups, they just turn up, even though they may not have the greatest run coming in. So that's Australia. Then let's
So
talk a
like
little.
they are a dangerous team because
Yeah.
they don't show you their 100% capability in the lead up in their T20s. I'm saying,
Yeah.
whereas with India, you know what to expect. India has been playing, for India, it's such a big deal, the T20 World Cup, that they've been preparing for it from like 30th June 2024 onwards. And every tournament week, every series, you can see this one piece of the puzzle being put together. But for Australia, they just have a lot of individual talent which could just combine on a given day and stun you.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can say that for a few teams. Akash Chopra was making a good point that India are in a position of luxury where, because the IPL doesn't clash with international cricket, they can play their strongest T20 side whenever they want. Other teams have to figure out balancing whatever their domestic franchise league is with then internationals. They've got to kind of manage the schedule. Sides like New Zealand obviously have players on these hybrid contracts. So there are a lot of teams that you don't actually know what their potential is like. And the next team I want to talk about is very similar, South Africa. I was just looking at like some numbers, and for example, since the last World Cup, Janssen and Rabada have played just three T20Is together. Like
Yeah.
they haven't played together if you think about what is South Africa's best seam attack, it might be Janssen, Rabada, and maybe Ngidi. Those three have not played a single match together in the last 2 years. I think Janssen, Rabada, and Nokia played exactly one game together. So you've actually not seen South Africa's best bowling lineup. Their batting as well. Of course, there have been a few injuries now, but they keep chopping and changing. So could there be another team, KK, who just suddenly
Hmm.
spring a surprise, because they haven't had a great time of it in the past 2 years in T20s? Their win loss record is pretty poor actually, but I mean they've got that potential there. And as I said, like, you might suddenly see a situation where these players suddenly come together and produce something.
Yeah, correct. And on that point of hybrid contracts and all, like I think Finn Allen and Lockie Ferguson came back, and I think they were playing for New Zealand. Ferguson was playing for the first time for New Zealand since November 2024 or something in this series against India. I think just that last match he played, right? And similarly,
Nisham also was in Bangladesh Premier League and he came in
yeah,
middle of the
correct,
series.
correct. And Finn Allen, he has a superb like BBL,
Mm.
tops the run scoring charts, and then he plays for New Zealand for the first time after like 10 months or something like that. So it's yeah, it's definitely not a situation India have to contend with, and that also might, to some extent, like put the disparity in like win-loss records in a bit of context, which might mean that when it comes to a big tournament, the teams are little more evenly matched than we might think leading up to it. Yes, you asked about South Africa, and they've had a couple of injuries which may have kind of helped them, I feel, just before this tournament, where I think Dizorzi goes out and Tristan Stubbs, who I don't know why he wasn't part of the initial squad, he's back in it. So I think that's a good thing for them. Donovan Ferreira is also out. I mean, he's a pretty useful player to have. Like I thought he looked really promising in that series in India, and especially, I mean, with the bat, yes, but also like that really fast off spin he bowls would have been very handy to have. But I like, the look of them if they, have their best 11, find it quickly and like have it on the field. I think they can pretty much beat any team on their day, right? Uh, Especially, uh, I think the difficulty they might have is finding a way to play, say, George Linda, who would balance their 11 a little better than maybe Keshav Maharaj. But I think Maharaj has been in pretty like great bowling form leading up to the tournament. And, he's a damn good, like, left arm spinner to have as well. So there's a little bit of trickiness as to how they construct their 11. If you have a situation where, say, you have Marco Jansen batting at 7, which they have had in the past, I think in the last T20 World Cup, the final also, that was one of the reasons why suddenly they, after looking so good, suddenly they ran out of batting. Which could happen to them again, if they don't find a way. It's like that classic conversation we have about India a lot. Who bats at number 8? That's something they might have to like find a way to sort out. Otherwise, I think they have a lot of boxes ticked. They have a lot of superb players. I mean, Devol Brevis, like, really excited to see how he goes in like a World Cup. I think this is his first World Cup of any kind, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super excited about seeing that. Quinton de Kock is in like incredible form all of a sudden. So
Yeah, and Stubbs
those,
has just recovered a bit of form. He was dropped,
hmm,
I think, because he wasn't in the greatest form. He's just got a 60 in the SA20 final in very quick time. I think he hit the
right, yeah.
winning runs as well. So there's a bit of form for him as well. Yeah,
It's yeah, I mean, see, they're able to leave out some superb like informed players as well, like Otniel Bartman, who even like Dale Steyn is like, why is he not there in the squad and all? But you can see why they left him out because you look at the other seamers they have, right? It's hard to find a place for everybody. So in terms of strength and depth, I think they're a really good side. They just have a difficult first group to get out of, and then they get into that really like strong like Super Eights group again. So it's a difficult path for them, but they have the team that could kind of get through it and reach the semifinals, and from there anything can happen.
Yeah, you mentioned George Linder. Sorry, one name came to mind back on the Australia chat. Matthew Kuhneman. If Adam Zampa is missing, I mean Kuhneman has developed into a really interesting T20 bowler. I think only bowls at like 110 or under 90, right? He just doesn't bowl at that that expected pace of a spinner at all between 90 and 105. It's either just darts or really slow. So he could be another real threat for Australia if Zampa's missing. But South Africa definitely have a strong side. But as you said, KK, they've got a little bit of a tougher path making it through. Let's talk about New Zealand because we've just seen them play this T20I series here in India. Uh, Clearly, I mean, batting wise, there is a lot of power there at the top with Finn Allen, Tim Seifert, and then Daryl Mitchell as well, showing some good form throughout the series. And as Sid said, there's good spin bowling stocks there as well. Should we now start? Like, I feel like New Zealand are always in this role of dark horses, okay, like they'll spring a surprise. But the fact is, they're so consistent now with these ICC events. And keep in mind, the last ICC event in India, the Champions Trophy, New Zealand were the finalists along with India. So, do we need to really start taking them seriously as contenders now and not just dark horses, Sid?
So here in this World Cup, to be a contender is very difficult because India is such a clear favorite. Uh, but yeah, I generally do not take them lightly in any tournament. If anything, they start this slightly lighter than they did some other tournaments. Um, it's they do that they've got a lot of all-rounders, but I just doubt if they have that kind of power running through the lineup. They have to be really smart with how they operate through the batting innings. But yeah, I mean, for us, as we said, they are one of the favorites to reach the semifinals. Contenders, I won't say. I mean, for me, if anybody asked me a contender for this World Cup, I would just say India, because India, on paper, on strength, they're just so far ahead of any other side. Australia, South Africa, just under that rung, and maybe New Zealand and England just under that rung. But conditions are going to test them. They're going to have to play in Sri Lanka. They might have to, of course, it's an ICC tournament, so and it's regular venues. It's not like the last World Cup, which a lot of it was in the US, and uh, some of the big matches were in the new ground in Port of Spain, just on the outskirts of Port of Spain. So it wasn't really controllable, the conditions, but here it's regular countries who are used to having cricket pretty much all year round. The groundsmen know what to prepare. The ICC will supervise the preparation. So I don't think, unless it's not manageable, I don't think the conditions will be diabolical where 100 is being defended. Or a team is playing four spinners. Those kind of things will not happen. So difficult paths, but yeah, favorites for me to make the semifinal. But after that, they really need 2 days of playing out of their skins and some luck going their way to be considered contenders to win the World Cup.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, I'll just add that, you said the power game that, I think the power players are kind of just a rung below the best in the world, right? Like Glenn Phillips or say Tim Seifert. I mean, Finn Allen is coming into the tournament in really red hot form, so he might, you know, be one to really watch. But otherwise, they are just like one small step below the likes of someone who could, I don't know, really like take a game away in 12 balls or something.
Like
So
a team that has, I mean, no disrespect, but Devon Conway should not
yeah.
be in a T20 squad
Hmm.
because of the tempo that he plays at.
Yeah.
India, India used to have such players, but much more efficient, but such tempo players
Yeah.
3 years ago, which they moved on from. So
Yeah.
Yeah, those kind of players. Same with Rachin Ravindra. He can sometimes have a great start, but then overall they have to play out of their skins to, strike at 150 consistently.
I think on
Yes.
every podcast, Sid has to criticize a player who has either at some point played for CSK or is going to play for CSK.
Oh,
You know who I'm talking about in the
God.
going to play for CSK part of
என்ன போன?
Yeah, but let's talk about some of the teams that will challenge New Zealand. So Pakistan, I mean, I think during the Asia Cup, we all looked at the cricket Pakistan was playing and saying this looks like cricket from 5 years ago. And but then of course they did end up challenging India in the final. Okay, that was sort of a one-off. But then now they've had a little bit of decent form. They won one of the matches in Sri Lanka when they toured there. Now they've beaten Australia. It looks like Salman Agha is slowly transforming himself as a batter. He's just
Mm.
had one of these rare knocks where he scored 70 odd at a strike rate of 190. They've obviously got some interesting spin options in Abrar Ahmad, Usman Tariq. I feel like everyone's kind of, even I had categorized them as long shots, but the more I think about the conditions and some of this recent form, the fact that again, like even in the 2021, or when was it that they reached the finals? Yeah, 2022.
In
Nobody,
Australia. Yeah.
yeah, and in 2021 they reached the semis, which again, both World Cups, I don't think they were anywhere among, the favorites. Or I mean, maybe not like now where they've
No,
really
but
seemed
at
to.
at that time, considering the form of their bowling unit,
Yeah, they had
they
Haris and
they
Shaheen in top form. Yeah.
yeah, so they had the setup to play that 170, 180 T20I really well. Again, at that time also they were struggling if the conditions were 220, 210, but for that 170, 180 conditions they were set up really well at that time, which from where they have like regressed from there now.
Hmm.
They're, I mean, so it's really difficult for them unless the conditions, as we have been talking about, really make it a 160 game.
Mm. Yeah. I mean I like the look of their spin attack, and not just the Usman Tariq and sorry, Abrar, whom you mentioned, but they have three all-rounders there. I think Shadab Khan has come back into some kind of form. Uh,
And
Mohammad
Mohammad
Nawaz,
Nawaz just took a
Nawaz
five
has
for
been in
yeah.
like, yeah, he took a fifer. He's been like, doing a pretty good job with the bat as well. And Sam Ayub has, apart from his bowling, he's now starting to like score runs as well consistently. Uh, you know, like so, if the pitches allow them to like, play two outright spinners and to have their all-rounders or something, then they become very tricky to like negotiate, right? Then their batting issues don't look so bad anymore. I mean, they're still there, but they kind of hidden, they kind of masked by conditions. So if that happens, they become a very dangerous team.
Yeah, and another team in that same group who I think a few of our colleagues have picked as dark horses are Sri Lanka, because obviously they have the advantage of playing most of their games at home, both in the first group. I mean, all of their games at home, both in their first group stage and then in the Super 8s. And I think with Sri Lanka, actually, what stands out is one, they have some decent batting at the top. Obviously, Pathum Nissanka has been one of the top T20I batters over the last year, 18 months. And then their bowling actually for the conditions could be quite interesting with Chamira. Pathirana is now, in the Sri Lanka setup playing for them, which he wasn't for a while. I'm not sure what the injury status is of Ishan
Ishan
Melinga.
Malinga,
Yeah,
yeah.
it looks like he's a bit of a doubt, but
They could
he,
bring back, I think, Nuwan Tushara if he
yeah.
doesn't play. Yeah.
Yeah, but then I mean, I still think Tikshana is somebody who maybe has been worked out by some of the players in the IPL, but and in an international setting, there may be some batters who struggle to pick him as well. So there is something there, and again, as Sid said in that Super 8 stage, sometimes you just need one upset. Like if they end up, say, beating Pakistan and then they beat one of England and New Zealand, then they've got a very good chance of making it to the next round. So and they are an interesting sort of prospect considering they're playing at home, right?
I mean, and they could say potentially beat Australia in the first round. Not that it might, I mean, it may not make a difference in terms of the rest of the tournament. But on their day they could beat any, as in if conditions kind of work out for them, they could beat some of the bigger teams as well, right?
Yeah, they definitely could. So that's kind of I mean, so that should be an interesting group, even though on the face of it, it looks like okay, it's not got the big, like it's not got the teams that have been doing very well so far, like India, Australia, but it should be an interesting group. But it's going to take us a while to get there to the Super 8. So let me ask you, let me frame the question this way: like, how are you planning to spend the first phase of this tournament? And okay, let's just throw this question open. Like, what would you have done differently with this tournament? Because the fact is that, I mean, obviously, we all want to see, lots of different teams at a World Cup. I think we would all agree that's a good thing. But how does the ICC balance this, where they have that, but then also have some relevance to this first phase? Because it does feel like there's not a lot of relevance to a lot of these games.
There's a simple solution. You carry forward points. Uh, Either you carry forward all your points, and halve it. Let's say you're playing 4 games, so you make your first round worth 4 points, or at least worth 2 points, which means you carry forward points from the match that you played against the team that also ended up qualifying from your group.
But as we've just seen, that can throw up some weird scenarios, like at the Under
No,
19 World Cup.
I mean, what's wrong in that?
You love that, right?
I
Most
mean,
of the
that's
world was saying this is like akin to fixing. Sid was sitting there enjoying watching Pakistan just block till what was it, the 21st over to get
Yeah,
another team into the next round.
always a
no,
fan of
no.
some gamesmanship. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Australia did that in the 99 World Cup,
99.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Against West Indies. Unsuccessfully, but they tried it.
Okay, so let's change
Yeah.
it to say you count your points, whatever how many ever points you've accumulated in the first round, halve it and take that forward into the next round. So that first round becomes worth 4 points and not just worth anything. I understand. Okay, I mean, again, it's a very ironical thing that the ICC uh, uh, prefixes the matches that the teams will be playing. The stated reason for that is so that the fans can plan and do everything. But the fans don't even know when the matches are, where the tickets are. So it's a very dichotomous situation with the ICC where on paper they're trying to say, hey, we are doing it for the fans, but then you don't announce the tickets until like have they right now we don't know the playing conditions, we don't know the participating teams. Okay, participating teams unavoidable, not ICC's fault, but we don't know the playing conditions. The tickets went on sale ridiculously late as usual. So that reason does not hold water. At least at the very least, if you want to avoid those funny, weird gamesmanship in the first round, at least let it have a bearing on whom you face in the next round. At least let there be some penalty for finishing second in the first round, and so that you go into a difficult group in the next round. Nothing, I mean, nothing rides on these matches except for that one group, which is slightly difficult, where Afghanistan, thankfully, have become such a good team that they become a threat. I mean, even if Namibia or Netherlands or US were to spring up one surprise, it won't amount to anything because really need two surprises at least for that to become a jeopardy. So that is one problem with the groups, and it's easily fixable if we are open to, having teams carrying forward points. The other thing that has been a point, especially in our office, of hot debate or discussion has been how India always keep getting the last match. Uh, I looked at some of the tournaments. So Champions Trophy 25, uh, it was two groups of four each, so you had a 25% chance of playing the last game. India played the last game in their group. 2024 T20 World Cup, India would have played the last game if it would not have been for
the
the
the TV
TV requirements
timings.
of
Yeah,
India.
yeah, yeah.
for
Yeah.
India to have to play in the morning. India did play on the same day, last day, but they played in the morning. ODI World Cup T 2023, you
Netherlands,
have 10 teams. Yeah, 10
India,
teams, you have only
Netherlands. Yeah.
10% chance of, yeah,
Yeah.
10% chance of playing that match. You do it. T20 World Cup in 2022 in Australia, India play the last game against
20%
Zimbabwe.
chance because you're one of two teams who are playing that game.
Ah, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
So,
think if my math is right, it could be very
no,
wrong.
but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, 20% chance. So
Mm,
let's say, so 2025 Champions Trophy, it was a 50% chance then.
mm,
Uh, 2022 T20 World Cup, again, India play the last game against Zimbabwe, and the other last game, in the other, funnily, that day, India versus Zimbabwe, there were three matches on the same day. In that group of six, there were three matches on the same day, but the other two teams played in the morning, India played in the night.
mm.
Now, 2021 last game, India versus Namibia, T20 World Cup.
Yeah.
ODI World Cup 2019, India again were playing on the last day, but because India were playing all day games, because it's a 3:30 p.m. start in India, so they ended up playing the morning game and the other teams played the night game. Before that, 2017 Champions Trophy, India did not. 2016 World Cup, India did. 2015 World Cup, 2014 T20 World Cup, India did not. 2013 Champions Trophy, India did. 2012 T20 World Cup, India did. ODI World Cup 2011, India did.
This is
T20
how
World Cup,
you spent your Sunday. That's it, going through all.
yeah. So no other team gets to play the last game this often, which is of course the unfortunate result of one of the most exciting World Cups that I saw was 2007 one, because we saw the brilliance of Australia and we saw a lot of meaningful matches in the first round. But one of the offshoots of that was that it the ICC just wanted to give India every chance to go through, which is the India are the hardest done by this because India don't need it. Why? India are a good team. India have been consistently one of the best teams in the last decade and a half. They can make semifinals easily. Why do they have to, do this every time that India plays the last game and India plays Pakistan in the first round? Okay, India plays Pakistan in the first round. We know why, but India don't need that extra help, extra hand to push them into the semifinals. They do not need that last game. And the other thing that at least you can do is have them simultaneously, those last games. You know, you playing on the same day, then but you want to play one game in the morning, one in the night. Just play them simultaneously, be fairer, have the integrity of the sport not put to question. Although it would not have made any difference to India in these all these years if they had not got the last game, but they still keep getting that last game way, way, way more often than any other team.
Yeah, so this year it will be India West Indies is the last game of the Super 8s, and Australia South Africa will play the earlier game on the same day. That's, I mean, if
So,
Australia and
so
South
for
Africa,
example, if India have lost one of the matches to either Australia or South Africa,
they'll know
and
what they need in terms of net run
yeah,
rate
yeah.
in the
So
West Indies game. Yeah.
if that group ends up being tied between three teams, India will know what to do in that match.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Before,
I'll just add one point to Sid's earlier point, which is of carry forward points, right? It's produced some of the most exciting moments that we remember years down the line, right? Say
Yeah.
99 World Cup, like Zimbabwe beat India and South Africa in the first round, and that added so much jeopardy to that Super Six. And
I
then
wasn't a big fan of that because I feel like
yeah, but
No, but
but we still talk about that Steve Waugh innings in the Super Six. We still talk about that tie, which became an Australia win because of all of this stuff, adding up.
and
yeah, but
also
it's unfair. I
why
feel if
no,
Why
you
is it unfair? It's
you're
part of the
rewarding them
it's
now because
no,
they
you
part
are the
should
of
best
carry
teams.
you
yeah.
should
They are
carry
the best
forward.
teams. The teams that
No,
have
but
gone
not
forward are the
necessarily.
best teams.
I like the idea of carrying forward all your points or half your points. I think when you carry forward points only against the teams you beat, then that becomes a little random. Like you might,
Yeah, but it adds some. See, that randomness, it's not random in the sense that, okay, if you know, okay, either of these teams could go through, it forces you
Listen,
into taking some sort of tactical call, some sort of strategic call that adds interest to the tournament, right? It could be
Yeah.
perceived as negative, it could be perceived as gamesmanship. Fine, but it's sport. You do
And
what
talking of
you do
random,
whatever is within the rules, which is within your interest to like try and further your cause,
yeah.
right? What's wrong with that?
Talking about random things, we sometimes the legacy of a team relies on one random final.
Hmm.
I mean,
I
even last year, a year and a half last year, when Abhishek Sharma, Varun Chakravarti, and the Arshit Rana were added to the 2024 squad of India, I was like, this is the greatest T20 team assembled. Uh, Not just international cricket, anywhere. But now, if they on in Ahmedabad, if they lose to Australia, let's say in the final, we will take away that tag from them
no, no,
based on one.
yeah,
So randomness is there everywhere, especially in tournament play.
yeah, but I still I don't like the idea of carrying forward points only against the teams that qualify. In this case, it would be only against one team, which then then
But
you're
those
still
two
not.
those 2 points give you a cushion in the next
But
round,
you're
right?
still not solving the problem of relevance of all the other games. I would rather just you carry forward half your points in general. And here's my idea. What about bonus points? Reintroducing bonus points, because then your matches again between full members and associates become exciting. Full members are going for the bonus point, which may then open up an opportunity for an associate to win. Like
Yeah.
if and especially
But
if you keep the bar for bonus points high. So say then teams might
16
have to.
overs. It has to be 16 overs. You
Yeah,
can't go more than that.
16 overs or whatever the equivalent is in runs. Then you have a team maybe batting first again,
Basically,
say,
80%, or you have to be 1.25 times of the team that you beat.
yeah. So then that adds a little bit of interest in those games as well. And as I said, it can open up an opportunity. Somebody might try to
But then,
score
yeah,
250 against Nepal and
then
lose
a,
wickets.
then a no result just ends up penalizing you much more than it should. All those things. I mean, I'm all for this jeopardy. But people will say, "Hey, this." You know what the ICC wants. They don't want upsets. So ICC is it's a body that is torn apart. They also have their heart in the right place, but they're also torn apart by the financial implications of because there are just two or three teams that bring in so much viewership. They're just torn apart by the thought of not having them in the later stages of the tournament.
Yeah.
I think we have the headline for this episode. Munga, ICC have their heart in the right place.
Okay, so I'm not so sure about now, but for a long time, the executive of ICC, they really want to, they do a lot to spread the game but when it comes to the bottom line, it's the member. At the end of the day, it's not a autonomous body. It's a body put together
Mhm.
by the full members for their own convenience. So it's like a RWA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonder if their WhatsApp groups are as entertaining as the RWA WhatsApp groups.
Yeah. Uh, Only
Okay.
entertaining for a certain kind of
Yes,
people.
of course. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about what other themes we expect from the World Cup. We expect the first round to have not a lot of interest, then things to pick up in the Super 8s. We've talked about the kind of scores that we might see. A lot of people, the question on their minds, or just something that has kind of become a running theme now of the last couple of IPLs has and this World Cup is, will a team score 300? I mean, I guess there's
Oh,
a fair
big chance,
yeah,
yeah.
there's a fair chance, right? Considering, I mean, Ahmedabad, Delhi, Wankhede, these are all the kind of grounds where you could see it happening. Even Chennai these days, to be honest, has become pretty flat. Uh, yeah, I mean, I mean, just to make this fun, let's just make some random predictions for which match we might see a 300 score in.
Let me actually
Okay,
have
everyone is going through
another
fixtures
quick
and
look at the
results.
groups. Yeah, just
India
so
versus Namibia, maybe?
India versus Namibia is
is that
happening.
the I think India USA in Mumbai is the first game, right?
Yeah.
That's
India, Namibia, Delhi, bro.
hmm,
Delhi has become one of the truer pitches and
hmm.
smallest outfield.
Okay, so Sid's going for India versus Namibia. KK, what are
I'm
you going
I'm
for?
just gonna one sec. I will have you give yours. Let me
Okay,
have
okay.
a quick look
Let
at
me.
the table. Oh, I think England
Okay.
because they're playing Italy, Nepal. I mean, yeah, I'm not
But
going
in Sri
India here.
Lanka.
No,
Okay.
their first round is fully in India, and they play I think in Wankhede. And let me actually hang on. I
Mm.
wish this was.
They're playing both Scotland and Italy in Eden, which isn't one of the higher scoring grounds.
It
So
was no couple of maybe
yeah,
yeah. Last year
recently I
not so
think
much,
it's
but it
yeah,
has been on and off.
yeah.
England play Nepal at Wankhede.
Listen, but if Namibia win the toss and decide to bat first against India, then I don't lose my bet.
Okay, I'm gonna go for
The-
Yeah, I'm
I,
going for England. Yeah, let's call it England Nepal at Wankhede.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to
I
go.
wonder. I will not be surprised if England lose to one of these teams. Maybe
True.
Nepal.
I wouldn't be surprised if both happen. They score 300 and they lose to one of these teams. Not in the same game, but
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant in the same game. That would be
that would
funny.
be fun. Yeah.
Huh. I wanted to go for USA being the first team to score 300 just because I think if that happened, their president might do a press conference about it. But I'll instead go
Wait,
for
USSCA president or the USA president?
the USA president.
Mm.
I'll go for India Netherlands in Ahmedabad because it's India's last group game. I figure they'll try to give the fans something to watch since that might be in any case by then they'll probably be qualified for the super hits. So yeah, those are our predictions for 300 plus. What are the other themes from this tournament? I mean, one thing I was thinking of is there a lot of actually this is something our colleague or former colleague Gaurav Sundararaman brought to my attention that why is it that there are so many good left arm spinners these days and not many good off spinners? Like there,
And they're the taller ones.
yeah, like
Most
you
of them
think
are
of this
taller.
World Cup, we've also already mentioned Akshar Patel, Matthew Kuhneman, George Linde,
All
Mitchell
6 foot
Santner.
plus. All
I mean,
6 foot plus.
what's happened to off spin bowling is my random question, which is
I just think that it's because 80% of the batters are right-handers, so the ball goes away and blah blah blah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no
But not
other.
anymore. I mean, India has only left-hand batters this time around, for
I think
example.
India were looking to game this preponderance of left arm spinners by like playing more left-handers. See, that's
Yeah.
another, yeah. See, they're just so far ahead in T20 thinking now that, yeah. No, but yeah, that's the simple reason that, there are just more right-hand batters. But one of the offshoots of that is the off spinners you're seeing now. A lot of them are either batters first who are bowling way more than they used to, or all-rounders in some form. Like, I mean, so are some of the
Yeah.
left-arm spinners, to be
And
fair.
they're
But
all very restrictive. You see all the under 19 off spinners, they're very, very restrictive in their.
it's you have to develop these survival tools, right? And I guess to be an off spinner at the top level itself, like you come through layer upon layer of just facing a lot of right hand batting. So I think overall you might see that left arm spinners tend to get hidden away from. It's easier to hide them away from left hand batters than it is to hide an off spinner against a right hander. But because of that hiding away, uh, I mean, yeah. So for all these reasons, you have that trend of more left arm spinners. But because there will be a left-hander in the lineup who's not good against off spin or something. Teams do still want that option, but they can't play that option as a pure bowler, and you have need to use that person for 4 overs. So then they look for ways to like work around this, and therefore you have somebody like Sam Ayub who suddenly like becomes a regular bowling option, or Glenn Phillips who started out as a wicket keeper suddenly is like mm, uh, almost a proper all-rounder. And yeah, so that's the other offshoot of it.
We might see some retired outs, hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
we
going to say, what are
probably will,
the
I think. Yeah. I mean, the since I think November, we've had a crazy number of them in
Yeah.
franchise cricket.
Which
Not in.
team do you think will be the first to do a retired out at the World Cup? My bet is on England for this.
I think looking at the personnel, I'd be like, what about like say Babar Azam?
Oh, no, no, no.
Well, every week we have to, we
Huh?
have to say something to.
Yeah.
This is the most masochistic podcast. Unnecessarily, we invite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, singles being turned down could be another thing that we see
Mm.
more of at this. I mean, definitely, I think we'll see it in the last couple of overs. If a batter is batting with a low order batter, it's now almost a given. I'd like to see a few non-striker runouts for sure, especially against England.
Mm.
What else would be like? Let me just ask this: what else would you like to see, especially in this first round where we're all talking about how the games may not actually have that much riding on them? What?
I'm hoping for upsets more than
Okay.
anything else.
Yeah, of course.
That's
That's a serious answer
yeah,
where you
yeah.
want.
No,
Yeah.
no. I
What about?
genuinely hoping for like a proper like shockwave kind of upset somewhere. Two ideally. But yeah, that's what I want from the first round.
Yeah, I'd like
Mm.
to see like some famous Italian
Yeah.
footballers coming to games, and
Yes.
doing on-pitch interviews. I'd love to
Yeah.
see Paolo Maldini show up to a game and then they ask him to just say something on the camera and he's like, "So where's the goal?" That would be that would be on my wish list for the first part of the World Cup. Uh,
Are we getting that? Should I even bring it up on the thing? Uh, I
what
mean, are
that
we
we
getting the Christian Vieri
It's
in?
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Very, we have very few viewers, KK, and the
Very
number
good.
of
Yeah.
them who know who Christian Vieri is even smaller. So it's not like you're leaking some
Like
big.
generationally, they must be like, yeah, who are they talking about? But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like if I would love to see him, in the stands at the Wankhede while not Wankhede, wherever, Eden Gardens, when Italy are upsetting England and then getting interviewed and talking about his love for Alan Border growing up in Australia and stuff. That'd be nice.
Okay, I think now we're getting to that point of the podcast where we need to wrap up. We've basically done a long preview of the World Cup. What are the themes we've touched upon? Let's give the cliff notes. India favorites, Babar Azam will be retired out. That's the summation of this podcast. We'll try to come back and do another episode pretty soon, maybe after the first stage, just before the Super 8s or somewhere between. Until then, everybody remember, please be hygienic, floss your teeth, don't spit on the road. Try to not share glasses of water as far as possible. And remember to never take quick singles. They're really overrated.